Great. All right. Well, good to have you with me, Stu. Welcome to the Made for Greatness podcast show, and excited to go over your book, The Never
Oh,
Quit
cool.
Mindset.
Thank you.
So, um, just you've written a lot of books, and this one particularly, I think anybody will benefit from, but it's relevant even though they're not in the military, not trying to qualify for different branches or special ops. But before I jump in, just want to introduce Stu. Stu Smith is a CSCS, a former Navy SEAL, and a United States Naval Academy graduate. He's served current he has served and currently coaches individuals preparing to join the military, special operations programs, police, and fire services. And you can find all of Stu's stuff at stusmithfitness.com. And he has great number of best-selling fitness books in different areas of qualifying for FBI or different branches of public service or military service. Is that
That is
fair?
correct. Yep.
Awesome.
That is what I
Well,
do. I work out and write about it.
work, right, and live
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Yeah. So, excited to jump into this one because I think it's always a fascinating thing in my mind as someone who, you know, likes to run marathons and shot for Guinness World Records, um, mindsets behind the elite, right?
Mm.
And how do they think differently? Because you can see they might do different stuff, but there's also a different way they look at problems, a different way they filter challenges. And the reality is, if people are accomplishing stuff that you're not, or doing stuff that you couldn't imagine, they they're doing different things. So what are the habits, but also how do they think about those habits? And that's why I'm excited to jump into your book. So first, this is your book that came out this year.
Yeah. It's my latest
And
book.
but here's the crazy thing. You've been doing this and training this stuff for the past 25 years,
Yes.
right? What got you to want to distill all this knowledge, all this stuff I'm sure you've been communicating in person, on the phone, in blog posts to a really your manual for mental toughness and the never quit mindset? What made you want to write it this year? Um, yeah, tell me about
Well,
that.
that's a good question because, I have been, like I said, working out and writing about it. I write workout books, and this is my first non-workout book,
Hmm.
right? So for 25 years now, I've been writing workout books that specifically train people for whatever job they want to do that requires a fitness test to get in and to some kind of follow on training to get accepted and through that program. So, like Marine Corps special ops
Hmm.
programs and Navy SEAL and FBI, those type of things require a competitive physical fitness test to get accepted into those programs. That's what I specialize in. However, I've also been coaching people here locally for just as long,
Right.
and through some of my writings, there's always a element that comes up that really has very little to do with fitness, and it's the mental side of that. I get asked all the time, like, I just can't get motivated to go work out. How can I
Yeah.
go do that? And it is a mental game. I mean, there are battles that you will have with your mind every morning, and I still have them.
Right.
Every morning I wake up, I am as comfortable as I think I will ever be. And going back to sleep would be so easy to do. But that alarm has gone off. I have to get up. walk across the room to go turn it off,
Right.
before my wife punches me. Um, and um, that is a daily process that we all have to battle. And
Right.
the way to get over that is a mental game, and there are things that you can do to make that a little bit easier. And and then there's a workout. We work out outside year round, so we have
Mm-hmm.
right now we have hot and humid and sweating profusely. In January we had 20-degree weather with wind and snow and ice, and we're still outside working out.
Right.
So there are elements that also challenge, like I really don't want to get up and go freeze to death. So that cross your
Right.
mind. But with those things, we are actually getting ourselves a little bit tougher. So we battle, we make that battle in the morning to go do it. And then while we're doing it, I can almost feel every step that I take, I am getting tougher in those first 10 minutes. And after
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
No longer or do you even have those conversations in your head like, this sucks. It's already done. The hard part is over. And now I got another hour that is not that bad. The
Right.
bad part of an hour and a half long workout is the first 10 minutes before that workout even starts, and the 10 minutes you're spending warming up.
Right.
That's the worst part of it. And trying to figure out a way to get through that little hurdle that we all have. And I was just saying this on an earlier podcast today, is I've been working out consistently for 43 years now. So, I started when I was 13. I'm 56 now. And I can
Yeah.
honestly say there hasn't been a time in my life that working out hasn't been a part of my week, you know,
Right.
unless I was really sick.
Yep.
Right. But
Yeah.
I was pissed that I was missing workouts. Right. So that's how much of a habit it has become,
Right.
you know, and it started, and the same thoughts that I have early in the morning when I was 13, 14 years old, I have when I'm 56, of like, I just, I'm very comfortable right now. I could
Right.
stay in bed right now. Right. But I have
Yeah.
now this habit created that I just get up anyway. But I now try these little tricks, and I try to beat my thought before I hit the alarm to turn it off. So I try to beat that thought of, oh man, I'm so comfortable. I just really don't want to get up right now. So
Right.
that's why I put the alarm on the other side of the room. So when it goes off, I immediately get up, go turn it off, and I'm already up now. So even if I
Mm-hmm.
have that thought, it's too late.
Right.
I'm not still comfortable in bed. So there's little tricks that you can do with each of these elements, and
Yeah.
each chapter is kind of a different challenge that we all have to go through. And at the end of every chapter, I put in 5, 10, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
15 little tips to
Right.
help you deal with that challenge of understanding that brain and body connection, or you know getting comfortable being uncomfortable, or finding the
Mm-hmm.
fuel when the tank is empty. All those little things that I have written about for years in
Right.
articles.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put it into a more consumable book that wasn't
Right.
just a book that you read and you got rid of. It's a book that, what, I'm having a little bit problem with fearing failing right
Right.
now. So there's a whole chapter on fearing failing. And, instead of looking at it as failure, that word has been taken out of your vocabulary and is
Mm-hmm.
now a learning experience. So
Right.
every failure is a learning experience,
One
not a failure. So yeah.
was it you said right here, some of my favorite quotes on failure.
Mm,
Failure is success in progress, Einstein. And I like this. The difference between average people and achieving people is their perception of and response to failure, John Maxwell. that you put in
Yeah,
here.
yeah. John Maxwell's great, and Edison had a great one too in
Yeah,
there.
I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
How many times do you think he screwed up not getting that light bulb to work?
Right,
I mean, he has it documented, literally
right. Each
thousands.
one, each what didn't work,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they tested. And you you mentioned something interesting in here, and I think this is with becoming this whole idea of becoming more resilient, developing mental toughness. It's kind of going into the dark places where your mind starts to push back, right?
yeah, yeah.
And you say right here, you said nothing about resilience feels good,
Mm,
especially
no,
as you build the foundations or engage mental toughness. It is tiring, messy, frustrating, and filled with doubt. No one engages mental toughness in their comfort zone. And I think most people feel the pushback as a signal to get back in their comfort zone, right?
yeah, sure,
Instead of like
absolutely,
intentionally climbing the ladder and settling into the discomfort and taking consistent steps through the unknown. And they're battling their mind, they're battling their physical limitations and their lack of skill and the physical failure or the mental pushback.
doubt. Yeah, self
Yeah.
doubt. Yeah,
And so
that I want people to understand. That is what being human is called.
yeah, welcome. And you
We
say that, welcome to being human.
yes,
And and I think that's the neat part that you're kind of communicating in some of this is we all have these invasive thoughts. We all
100%.
have um there's just tools and ways of dealing with these challenges we all deal with. And I think some people have this idea of, oh, people that are in shape or people that work out, it's just natural to them and they don't struggle at all.
Mm,
But you have the overweight person that needs to lose 60 pounds and they're like, it's just harder for me to eat the foods I want. It's harder for me to go to the gym, but it must just be super easy for you because you're in shape and you don't overeat, right? But you
right.
just don't know
Yeah.
how intentional they are or how much they've developed discipline or how they've developed systems or that they have a cheat meal and they actually have good meals that taste good to them, but they don't overeat and
Right.
they've had to sort through stuff or give up certain things. So it's like, I think we can have this idea of some people just have it easy. In my life, I have more challenge than you, and I'm just screwed or something.
Yeah. The problem is, I think, um, all right, it's not even a problem. I mean, we're all going through this human experience
Yeah.
in our own way and finding little systems, so to
Hmm.
speak, that can help you do what you want to do um, has always been the human challenge,
Hmm.
right? I mean, we're constantly trying to figure this out. And I saw something recently that really kind of reminded me of why I wrote this book because I wrote this book not necessarily for the spec ops athlete. Yes, I want
Right.
all of my guys to have a never quit mindset before they go and do something that has an 80% attrition rate. And I want them to
Hmm.
be physically prepared for that challenge. The books really isn't for them. They can use it for that capacity, but it's really um, a system and
Hmm.
little reference checkpoints that you can do at the end of every chapter to help you with all types of stress. And it doesn't matter if it's a stress I can't pay a bill at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I'm trying to lose 60 pounds and I'm having a hard time doing it. And life is just harder because I'm 60
Yeah.
pounds heavier. Or they got bullets flying over their head as a tactical professional. Um, in life or death situations all the time. Stress
Yeah.
is stress is stress. And hormonally speaking, it doesn't differentiate between all of those types of stress. It's the same stress hormones, just in greater
Yeah.
quantities, that we have to learn how to deal with every single day, regardless of what you do in your life. Because stress will become chronic. And then when you look up chronic stress diseases that are
Yeah.
related to not mitigating your daily stress, the big ones come to mind: cancer, heart disease,
Yeah.
COPD, all of those things that are just degenerative stress related illnesses, um, or what we're trying to help people mitigate through. There's a whole chapter just on mitigating stress, right? And then
Yeah.
there's little tools that can help you take those, you know, intrusive thoughts that make you want to sit on your couch and watch Netflix all day, right there.
Yeah.
Instead of like listening to that intrusive thought, we give it a name and we tame it and we go do
Hmm.
something else. And so there's it's I try to make this for everybody, but at the same time make it for my specific audience as well.
Hmm.
So using all the same coaching techniques that I've been doing for 25 years with
Right.
young men and women who are going to serve in challenging jobs, I applied that to everyday life. So that's really what this program is.
No, and you have a corresponding video course on this, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's about 5 hours of
Uh-huh.
me going through each chapter, adding a few other stories that might relate
Hmm.
in that chapter. And then I throw in a question that specifically is related to that chapter that is probably, there's 10 chapters and I have these 10 questions that follow each chapter. Um, are the most common questions that I get, like, how do you define mental toughness, and what do you learn from failing?
Right.
Answer these little questions that a lot of people have. Do sports help build mental toughness? And how do I get out of my comfort zone? These are the types of, like, little bonus sections of like five,
Yeah.
10 minute answers that I put in the course that just kind of gives you a little thought process before the next chapter comes up.
Right. I love it. And the I love the different sections kind of covering themes of common experience. So like you have that chapter on whole chapter on failing and experiencing failure. You even talked about how surprised you were to see um, valedictorians and D1 level athletes experience failure for the first time, kind of,
Yeah.
and not handle it well. And handling in a sense, they don't handle struggle well. Like they need to win.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really great chapter. I have some good highlights from there. And then I even love how part of this whole idea of embracing mental toughness is setting targets and goals that stretch your potential, right? And
Yeah.
you have that whole chapter on setting lofty long-term goals, multi-year goals.
Yeah. Every
And
decade, every decade you should have decade goals.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all want to live an inspired life. It's hard to live an inspired life that if you don't have goals that get you revved up,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah.
make you feel scared or challenged or inspired,
Then you're on the right track.
right?
Yeah.
You have this whole chapter on managing doubt. And then
Mm.
I love your subtitle, Don't Listen to Yourself, Talk to Yourself. How do you need to talk to yourself? Right. And I even use this with my clients, this idea of becoming a better coach to yourself, you
Hmm.
coaching you.
Yeah.
And this idea of, because a lot of us, Have you heard the saying, if if I talk to my friends the way I talk to me, I wouldn't have any friends? Because a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't talk to ourselves that well, right? We kind of can be jerks to ourselves. Like, you're an
Oh,
idiot. You
absolutely.
always fail. You're never going to win. You know, you can't, you will never keep commitments to yourself. Why make even another commitment? Like, we beat ourselves up, right? We have this
Yeah.
internal dialogue that's like a bully that we
Mm,
haven't trained, and we don't have a good coach inside our
yeah.
head. We actually have this untrained, a lot of people have self-loathing voices in their head, right?
Yeah, and that's where the don't listen to yourself comes in, because you
Yes.
really do have to turn off that inner voice that is negative. And you obviously don't want to talk to yourself negatively, but you have to have a positive self-talk in order to
Yeah.
move forward. um in fact, that's kind of where, one of the first chapters we talk about just how the brain actually works, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
with our body. And it's a very basic understanding
Yeah.
of psychology and the survival parts of our brain. But if you understand, how the brain is broken, divided, we have a very basic part of our brain that's focused on survival and survival skills. And we also have, the thinking part of the brain, and we have actually parts of the brain that are meant to override some of our most logical thoughts.
Hmm.
And we actually do. Um, and that's something I found to be really interesting. And when I read that, that was really the whole reason I pulled the trigger on writing this book, because I have been trying to figure out how to explain this better.
What
Um,
what book or article did you go through that kind of broke that down
well,
for
it
you?
was just some research I was doing on the cognitive part of the brain, like our thinking part of our brain. And then we have the survival part of our brain that focuses on, fight, flight, food,
Right.
reproduction, things that as a species we need to survive. That is part of our driving force in the internal dialogue, is usually linked into that survival part of the brain. And a lot of
Right.
times it holds us back because it senses fear, it senses challenge, and it's like, oh no, you don't want to get hurt. Pull yourself back here. You don't want to get
Right.
cold out there in the winter air. Stay back in here. Stay safe. So it's meant to keep us alive and keep us surviving and comfortable, and less stressed. um it is our survival skill. So you can't look
Right.
at it as like you're weak because you have these thoughts. These are internal processes, that keep us alive as a species, as an animal. And they work really well to do that. And then there's this other part that this is the part I was telling you that I found out,
Yeah.
and it's called the cognitive part of the brain. Right? So you got cognitive, and this survival, brainstem level. And the cognitive part of the brain is that part of the brain that is the doing part of the brain, the almost the motivation part of the brain, that can override the thinking part of the brain and override those survival worries that we're
Hmm.
having, part of the brain, to get stuff done. And where a lot of the science is on this cognitive part of the brain is in sales. Like you can look into the actual scientific studies, psychiatry and psychological studies of what makes people buy. Okay, so we're actually focusing on buying something, and what
Hmm.
triggered that buying process, because it's like, I got no money, I'm gonna have to use a credit card to do this, right? But I really like this,
Right.
and so I'm gonna buy it. Like, what triggers that thought process? And that's that
Right.
cognitive part of the brain. Think about the criminal, right? the
Hmm.
the criminal has all kinds of thoughts going through his brain of like, well,
Right.
if I do this, I'm going to get arrested, go to jail, right? Or, this is not a smart thing for me to do. Why am I here?
Right.
I should have made better decisions. All these different things are coming through the brain, but the criminal overrides that thinking process and goes and does it. So why can't
Right.
we use that same thinking process for good instead of buying something or doing something illegal? We use that same thinking process that says, you're tired. You can work out tomorrow. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it. That inner voice can get turned upside down real quick with, some of these little skills that you start practicing. And once again, like you said, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself, and you can start
Right.
applying some of these little, really almost like right out of sports psychology, really, if you think about it, that just
Yeah.
gets you moving versus keeps you stagnant.
Right. And it's interesting, and I don't think people talk about the mind like this, but I think just because we all think all day long,
Yeah.
um, I don't think we've most of us have never been through a program on training our minds and choosing our thoughts, right? We have,
Yeah.
I would say most people have an untrained mind, and it's kind of like a unruly child or teenager in their head,
Mm. Yeah, I would agree. And
right?
yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think when we realize like sometimes the level of development or trainedness of our mind, um, it's actually just untrained, and that's why it's functioning poorly, right? Because if
Yes.
you thought through things, you'd realize leaning into reasonable challenges actually what's better for you. The other thing is more dangerous, right? You being on the couch and not growing, not going to work, not exercising, like this is the stuff that leads to decay,
Mm.
to cognitive decline.
Oh
Like
yeah.
because we don't because we're uninformed with kind of our the level of our thought patterns, we don't have the thinking that overrides the poor
Yeah.
mental development. And so almost could you imagine if there was a thing called like getting your a black belt in mental thinking? Like
Mm.
where do you think on a scale of a highly world-class trained machine on do you have these kind of thoughts often? Well, that is this level of mental development because you're thinking at like a lower threshold
Yeah.
of dealing with these thoughts, right? And overcoming them. Like, how often do you overcome these thoughts or submit to these thoughts? Well, that's kind of, it's just interesting because we all are bombarded. I mean, we live in this, our own
Oh,
mental worlds. And
sure.
so we can't escape it. And I think Tony Robbins has a great quote, which is he says, the quality of your thought thinking is the quality of your life. Because if you have constant ingratitude, you're finding problems, you're finding reasons to complain or be dissatisfied, that's the atmosphere you live in, right? And so
Hmm.
if you want to have a better quality of life, you need to figure out how to have better quality thoughts. And and this is kind of how we have a more trained mind and deal with the humanness, which is the battle within,
Right.
that we cannot escape, right? We all have this battle, like it or not.
Yeah. Absolutely. And something I try to help people understand, you know, from a fitness
Mhm.
coach background is that a lot of this can be achieved by using exercise as,
Yeah.
if you don't have exercise in your life, you need to start figuring out how to put it in there because it is truly the catalyst to all of this working. And even if it's as simple as walking for 20 or 30 minutes or stopping and doing some push-ups and squats every
Right,
few minutes, doesn't have to be a hour-long workout at a gym, and you don't need a gym membership. You just need to get moving physically
right,
and do it when you don't feel like it. Now, I didn't say do it when you're sick and not, injured,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
there's going to be
When you're not in the mood.
yeah. And every time you do that, you get a little tougher. It
Yeah,
is proven. You do something that you're not really feeling like you want to do, but it is
yeah.
time to go do it.
Hmm.
And you just get another scoop of mental toughness every time you go do that. And that's
Right,
how you develop mental toughness, one scoop at a time. You don't do it by, you know, sitting comfortably in a chair and watching a motivational film.
right.
That's fun and that's entertaining, but it's not going to do anything for your mental toughness. You have to go and do something,
Right.
and the results of exercise is medicine. I mean, it will make you feel
That's so
better.
true.
It will, give you more energy. You'll live longer. You have a better mood. You'll sleep better. That in turn will make you recover from stress better. I mean, it's just a snowball of goodness that occurs from just a little bit of exercise, and it
Right.
helps us mitigate stress. Um, and just overall, it's going to make you feel better and live longer and be healthier while you do it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And and
builds
they
builds confidence.
right.
You exercise, you start seeing results, you're building confidence, you feel better about yourself. Next thing you know, that mindset that's inside of you has a different tone altogether
Hmm.
versus being that negative person that says, "Hey, get back in that chair." Right? You don't
Right.
you don't belong working out. Sit down in that chair and sit there all day and eat chips. um,
And
so yeah. Exercise is
exactly.
the catalyst to get this done.
I'm curious, and I know my the audience is probably wondering, "Wh- what about you, Stu? You've been doing this for so long. You teach it. You have you coach at an elite level. You've performed at elite level in the SEALs. Where, like, does the internal battle after 20, 30 years get easier in the sense, or do you just have new, what have you found to be kind of the ones that you have to deal with and you might often overcome them, but is it still pretty real for you to like use your own tools?
Oh, absolutely. I use these, every one of these tools I have used dozens of times in a year, right? Just to
Right.
help me get through whatever I had going on in that year. Like, for instance, last year was probably one of the weirdest years ever,
Okay.
but I still got stuff done. It was a year long planning a wedding for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a stroke and he moved in with us
Mm-hmm.
um, about midway through that year. New normal that has
Oh yeah.
definitely taken place, and I was able to write two books at the same time and create what this was one of them.
Right.
So I was writing this in the middle of a very high stress, different times, but I was able to use any number of these techniques in here to
Mm-hmm.
just centrally focus, use exercise as a stress reliever because I knew I was overstressed.
Yes.
And um, that helped me sleep at night. That helped me recover. That helped me think clearer. And I had times when I could actually focus on getting things done in my day, just because we had figured out a system to allow that to happen.
Right.
But none of this happened by accident, right? It all happened deliberately because, we were able to compartmentalize some things,
Mm-hmm.
but not like ignore them. We just dealt with them whenever we had to. and continued to grow even in a year of um, really just high stress and a lot of balls up in the air that had to land perfectly, to have that
Right.
perfect wedding, and then you throw a curveball right in the middle of it, and you say, "Oh,
Right.
you get to take care of your dad now too,"
Right.
and sons graduated college, the same year, trying to get a job. So, I mean, life is
Yeah.
life, and life is stressful.
Right.
I mean, nobody's
Exactly.
immune to it. So, to answer your question, is yes, I have all those same issues that I had for the last 43 years of waking up and going to do workouts. But I do have a system that allows for me to get those things done, even when I don't feel like it. And my inner dialogue is, because I
Yeah.
don't feel like doing this, I now get pissed because I don't feel like it, and I go do it in spite of this part of my brain saying don't do it. So I do it in spite of it. So we all have those discussions, and
Right.
it's the human experience. And I think the more systematic you can be with a variety of options to get through those moments that really are just meant to keep you still and not moving
Hmm.
forward, um, is going to be a toolbox that you can use in any situation. Like everything that
Right.
I just mentioned, you know, half of those things have never happened to me before.
Right.
Right. I've
Exactly.
never planned a daughter's wedding. I've never had to deal with my dad having a stroke and being in the hospital, and
Right.
now taking care of them. And but I still wrote books that week and or that year, and I still wrote articles, and got my work done at the same time. Not because I'm superhuman, is just because I have that system to be able to allow me to really better deal with stress and have a, a positive outlook on the backside of it. And
Yeah.
everything, it was, I look back now at that year, and yes, it was a whirlwind, but it was one of the greatest days of my life. Walking my daughter down the aisle, and that
Right.
party afterwards that was worth every penny. And
Hmm.
um so it just makes it all kind of part of the human process, if that makes any
Right.
sense. And just accept it for what that is, and know that no one gets out of here with zero stress.
Yeah.
And we got to learn how to
Right.
deal with it. And
Exactly.
that's the
One.
challenge I give to people, is learn how to deal with these stresses that happen, because sometimes they're new, sometimes they're uh, things that are just common things that we always do, but sometimes they
And
come in a big bunch and you think it's going to be overwhelming, but somehow you figure it out and you move forward.
well, I think the neat reality, yeah, nobody's escaping the formidable challenges life has,
No.
right?
Yeah.
And but the reality is I think some people have a tendency to think, well, this is just how it is, and life can feel and sometimes more than I can bear, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think the encouraging reality is there are tools, strategies, and skills to develop that can help you get through the hard times while not, they can help you get through the hard times better
Yes.
and rise to the challenge and not get crushed. And I think if they don't make it easy, it doesn't put life on easy mode,
Mm-mm.
but you are more equipped to handle the next formidable challenge. And I think that is the sobering reality, which is not none of this is going to put life on easy mode, but it
Mm-mm.
will make you more equipped to handle and know how to process and how to manage what you're experiencing, look at the challenge and deal with it, opposed to freeze, give into spiraling self-doubt, fear. And it's in speaking to men, we need to be the pillar. And what's our tools for rising, being the leader in the situation, being the leader for our families, getting through the hard times so that we don't buckle, but we can have the tools to help lead ourselves and lead our families through the inevitable things that are, like you said, that we've never dealt with before, but we have tools.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but don't pray for easy lives. Pray to be stronger men. Um,
Yeah,
Somebody said I just googled it real quick, and it looks like
yeah,
Bruce Lee actually was attributed to some of this quote as well. But it looks like multiple
yeah.
people have used it, from JFK to a couple of famous clergy.
And,
But anyway, yeah,
and
don't pray for
yeah,
easy lives. Pray to be stronger. Yeah.
right. In the similar on that vein, the one it says, "Don't pray for a lighter burden, pray for broader shoulders."
Mm.
And it's just like, yeah, wait, don't wish life hit less hard. Just get better at. We get stronger,
Yeah.
we get wiser,
100%. And we
and
learn.
and then I love what you said in here. Sometimes you can't get smarter, and you can't
Get stronger.
develop the skills.
Yeah.
You have to get tougher.
Yeah. That quote right there is my last coaching quote that I give to people before they go into like into Hell Week, right? Because they've done everything they can do, right?
Yes.
It's the weekend before they have to stay up for 120 straight hours, not stopping.
Right.
And it's very challenging. There's a reason why half the people don't make it through that. And
Right.
I always say that, look, you don't have time to get faster. You can't get stronger. All you can do is get tougher, right?
Right.
And that is
Endure.
so true. Yeah,
I love it. And that means sitting in it longer and not running, not quitting, not giving up, right?
yeah, yeah.
So much great stuff, and I'm excited to have this just as my resource on the shelf. So thanks for writing it, Stu, and
Thanks.
putting it in a way that I know so many of my clients. I'm going to give away copies of this book. I mean, I have people I'm working with that are dealing with cancer, that are dealing with divorce, that are dealing with depression, and they need tools. They need to hear it from somebody else, and they need to realize there are ways to deal with life's aggressive challenges
Yeah,
that can help.
yeah. Well,
So
cool. Thank you.
really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hope if you're listening to this, you're getting some nuggets, re-listen to it. Please grab Stu's book. You're gonna love it. And I love the digestibleness of it. There's no fluff in this. It's you
Yeah,
go to the chapter that interests you. You're gonna get so much gold in there. And it's a great gift to give to your sons, friends that are going through a hard time. We all need um, tools and resources and encouragement to get stronger and to get better. So thank you, sir. Have a
thank
good
you
one.
very much.